Welcome to the House Fluent podcast. I'm Brian.
And I'm Tony.
We're both licensed professional inspectors here in the state of Texas, and we hope you enjoy stress-free home ownership. You can always find us at Instagram or at Facebook or at housefluent.com. So, Tony, how was your week?
So far, it's been really nice, I think. I've gotten a lot done around the house that I need to do, and with the yard and bushes and mulch and that type of thing. So
and you get to do a sewer camera inspection this morning.
Oh,
so
at
that's
work,
always good.
I got to do a sewer camera inspection and saw some root intrusion.
Tree roots, yeah. Tree roots are your friend.
Yeah. So help. I felt great that that they ordered that. I found it, and so I feel like I've helped the homeowner.
That's what matters, right? That's why we're here.
The buyer, the potential buyer, for sure.
So today, what are we talking about today, Tony?
Budget-friendly, easy to do, maybe not very costly home improvement tips.
I found a story about these two people. Have you ever lived in a house with a two-story? Have you ever lived in a two-story house?
Yeah, I have, yes.
And have you ever considered painting or refinishing the stairs on that house when you lived there?
I mean, yes. I thought about it.
I thought about it. But you never tackled it.
No. I mean, change now, like the balusters or, from wood to the more modern-looking black iron, just didn't get to that point.
So there was a man, and he and his wife lived in the Northeast, and they decided they wanted to refinish their wooden staircase. They had an older colonial home.
Okay.
So you can kind of picture, the older house, wood floors, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And what they decided to do, they wanted to paint the risers the same color as the trim on the house, and then they wanted to paint the treads an oil-based gloss black. So the part you step on, they wanted to paint black, and the risers or the vertical part, they wanted to paint just like the trim. So,
sounds good. So it's probably a white.
Yeah, maybe, or who knows, right?
Black tread, but something. Yeah.
Yeah. So they had a small problem though. All the bathrooms were upstairs, not the bathrooms. All the bedrooms were upstairs. Mm-hmm. The paint has to dry, right? So how do we do this where we can go upstairs and go to bed? Also, they had a 5-year-old son, so they had to figure out how do we keep him off the steps while we do this. So they created this plan, and they decided they were going to wait for the weekend where they could send their 5-year-old to the grandparents.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah. So, and then what they decided they would do is they would paint the risers during the day, so the vertical part during the day, and then they would wait until later in the evening, and the wife was going to go upstairs and go to sleep, and the husband would start at the top and paint the treads, and then he was just going to sleep on the couch downstairs.
Okay. Yeah.
So that was the plan. So they got all the stuff. The weekend came, took care of the risers, good night, honey. Painted the treads, went downstairs, and what do you think happened the next morning?
She woke up and walked down the stairs.
Nope, but she woke up and came to the stairs, and the paint was still wet.
Yeah, that would be bad.
That was bad indeed. So, what happened was the husband came up with a plan, and he went and he got an extension ladder, and he put the extension ladder on the outside of the house, and all the way up to the second-story window. And what do you think his wife told him?
Yeah, no.
That's exactly what she told him. I'm not kidding.
Don't think so.
Not climbing out the window.
Yeah.
So this particular guy was seen all day long bringing breakfast and lunch and dinner to his wife.
The ladder.
The ladder to his wife.
That's funny. Good story.
So are those the kind of DIY repairs that you're used to doing?
Well, yeah, I think there's probably been a few that
worked out that way.
Not that bad.
Not that bad.
Yeah, we're talking the early aughts.
The early aughts,
2000,
like 1904 or what?
I'm not that old. I know I'm a little older than you, but no, it's like 2003, maybe 2002, something like that.
It's funny. My dad, he's almost 80 now. He's 78, I think. Somewhere in there. Mm-hmm. And he's very good at remodeling, like really good at it.
Yeah.
And I can still remember I think it was my wife asked him, like, how did you get so good at this? Like, how can you just look at something and make it look that way? And my dad said, well, I've made a lot of mistakes in my life.
Yeah.
That's how I got good at it.
The school of hard knocks.
Yeah, pretty much. So today we are going to talk about some budget-friendly tips. the reason I brought up the painting of the stairs is paint. Mm-hmm. And paint used to be crazy cheap. It's a little more expensive now.
It's gone up.
For sure. But it's still one of the cheapest things you can do to really improve the look of your home.
Yeah, I think, picking out paint colors, it's always good to consult with someone,
like your
wife and I. Well, I have a Pepto-Bismol pink wall. It's supposed to be rose.
Yeah.
In one small area of my house. And so, it seemed like a really good idea at the time. And, it might have to change before we sell the home, but but no, my wife loves it, so we're still good with it. And
well, good. That's all that matters. Right? That's all that matters.
Like Pepto-Bismol color right now.
That's funny.
Pink, yeah.
So everybody thinks about with paint that painting walls, right? Walls and ceilings. That's what everybody thinks about. But did you know, Tony, where else you can use paint is on the floor? Have you ever seen that? Have you ever seen painted floors?
I'm going to say I've only seen, stained wood floors or stained concrete, but I never thought that I saw anything that was painted. So, and if I did, I wasn't aware it was painted. So
I have seen linoleum floors that people have painted over. So it's, an older, 1980s home with a linoleum floor in the laundry room or whatever, and people will just, instead of that ugly linoleum pattern or that faded, they just paint it. And it looks really good. And
does it?
It does, yeah. And they have there's a special kind of paint you buy when you're going to do the floor. The other places I've seen it, I have seen people paint wood floors black. Yeah. And it looks really good.
Yeah, that would look good. It's just the paint has to withstand the abuse of small animals, kids, and adults walking all over it. Yeah. Maybe even, I don't know, I guess it stands up to things like that. Maybe
it's more of a commercial-based paint.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to be moving furniture on it, probably. Or maybe it would.
Maybe. It just sort of depends on the furniture, I guess. But
well, that's a great idea, in fact.
What about, have you ever considered changing out cabinetry hardware?
Yeah. In fact, I have. So, that's a great idea.
Interesting place to get those types of things are like antique stores.
Yeah.
Where you're getting them, they came out used out of an old house or something.
Right. Sure.
And you can get some really unique things that you wouldn't find necessarily in a big box store, right?
Right. I mean, we've done that before. And then you say antique store. So there used to be the antique store that's over there in Colleyville, kind of catty corner. Yeah. It used to be a Kmart long time ago.
Yep, remember that.
And we got to, at the last home, we did the bathroom ourselves and bought two, had just the mirror that's mounted up there, pulled that thing down and bought two. I mean, I don't know if they were real antiques, but they looked, really cool and unique and one of a kind, big, thick framed, like wood with a mirror in it, that was beveled at the end. Bought two of those and actually just hung them there on each side, It was a dual sink. I mean, we felt good about that, Yeah, I mean, antique stores, to do a small space, I guess, and even with handles. I mean, I don't know if you're going to find, 30,
sets of handles for your kitchen.
For your kitchen.
Maybe,
but you can definitely do a small space like a bathroom or something like that and change things up, make it look really cool.
Yeah, for sure. And since you're talking about bathroom mirrors, another thing people can do that's really easy is you can go out and buy trim. And even if you're halfway handy, you can actually just glue that trim to the edge of your mirror and frame it in. And it looks really good. It looks like it's sort of a built-in mirror.
At some point in time, the mirror is going to go. But in the meantime, at the very edges, it's starting to
delaminate
in the back. And so it's like I can go get a whole new mirror, or I could do something like that, at least temporarily, or I don't know how long, it takes for it just to keep working up and delaminate further and further and further.
Yeah. Well, and even if it's not delaminating, it's just
something to do.
Kind of an upgrade to where you don't have, you can't see those plasticky hardware brackets, and it doesn't look like it's just sort of, cheaply mounted to the wall. It looks like more of a permanent installation. They look really nice when you do them right. There's other things you can do with trim too. You can frame around windows. So sometimes when you come into a house, you've got a window where the drywall just goes right up to the edge of the window frame. Right. And you could actually frame around that window with
that looks nice.
With trim, and it does. It makes it look like a nicer home. You can do things with trim that create illusions to make it look like your ceilings are taller by making taller trim around doors and things like that.
Yeah.
It's not crazy expensive. Some of that requires a little bit of skill, but most of the time trim work, if you're not getting really elaborate, right? Most of the time upgrading your trim is a pretty good upgrade.
Just got to cut those corners.
Yeah, you do have to cut the corners. Yeah, you're right about that. You got to do a little bit of, how does this work? Is this an inside corner or an outside corner? Yeah. What about old fireplaces? What are your thoughts on that? So we see a lot of old wood burning fireplaces, and the firewall's cracked, and bricks are falling in, and
clean it out really well, paint it black, and put some flower pots in there.
Yeah, I see that. Yeah, I see people do that, right?
Or what you would, I mean, it wouldn't be inexpensive to put a wood burning stove in there, if that's even.
So here's what I would recommend. Clean it up, paint the brick. You can, if you've got a lot of brick and you don't want that much brick, you can sort of put a fake front on it. You can, again, use trim. You can use drywall, all kinds of things to sort of get it looking the way you want it looking aesthetically.
Okay.
During that process, it's not real expensive. It's going to cost you a little bit of money, but you're spending money anyway. You can have an electrician run a dedicated circuit over there to that firebox. Okay. Mm-hmm. And then you can buy an electric insert and you can put it in there.
There you go.
And it can look they can look really, really nice.
Right.
It can take the entire space of the original firebox. It can give you a little bit of heat. Some of them come with heaters. Some of them don't. Some of them are just for looks. But it can be a really big upgrade for not a gigantic amount of money.
Oh, yeah. No, that's a great idea.
Here's something interesting to think about. Have you ever considered putting trim on a bathtub? Wood trim on a bathtub? This sounds like a disaster waiting to happen, doesn't it?
I'm going to say no. Because I'm not really sure, what you're talking about.
I've seen it more times than not lately. I see it a lot on houses people are flipping.
Yeah.
I see it also on houses people are just sort of remodeling. And they'll usually do it in a bathroom that doesn't get a lot of use. Maybe a hall bathroom, something like that, that's not getting a lot of use. And what they do is they buy trim and they frame the side of the bathtub, the vertical side that's coming down.
Yeah.
They'll frame that and they'll make it look more like a drop-in tub or something you'd see in a master. And it looks really nice. I'm really surprised by it. Yeah, I'm really surprised by how nice it looks.
I don't know if I've seen that yet.
So. Now, you obviously don't want to get a ton of water on it, right? So wood trim on a bathtub is a little tricky. Sticking in the bathroom, a lot of older houses too have older vanity lights. They'll have those, they call them Hollywood lights. They're just sort of this long string of light bulbs above the sink. And they're super common. Builders put them in for a long time because they were cheap. Yeah. And, obviously nowadays upgrading those vanity lights is, a pretty easy thing to do, right? So normally it's just 2 nuts and some wire nuts and you're done, right?
Yep.
That's basically it. I've told you before about our house, but we bought a little bit of a fixer-upper.
Yeah.
And we moved into it, and our original master bathroom, one of the things we were going to do, cheap upgrade, we'll change out the vanity light. So I got this light. My wife and I both liked it. And I went to replace the vanity. So I unscrewed the old one and just assumed that there would be an electrical box behind the wall and that this was attached to an electrical box. So I went and I unscrewed the nuts and I pulled the vanity off. And what was there was about a 1/2 inch diameter hole in my drywall.
Yeah, that's the way they used to do it in the old days.
And a lamp cord. And the lamp cord was wire nutted to my vanity light. And I started pulling and pulling and pulling and pulling and pulling and pulling. There's probably 8 or 10 feet of lamp cord on this. And then it finally just stopped. I was like,
uh-oh,
what happened? So I got my flashlight and I looked in the hole because it's only a 1/2 inch diameter. You couldn't reach in there.
Yeah.
I looked in the hole and I looked down and I could see that it was attached to something, but I couldn't see what. So I decided, okay, well, I'm going to go get a remodel box. So I got a round remodel electrical box. And the way those work is you cut the hole, you put it in there, and then you turn some screws and these little flaps come out and they hold it to the drywall. And I thought, well, I'm going to cut the hole and then at least I can get my hand in there.
Yeah.
So I cut the round hole and I could look in there, and what was in there was really interesting. It was an electrical outlet that was not in a box at all. It was screwed directly to the stud. Wow. And then the lamp or the vanity was plugged into it.
That's just wrong.
It was wrong on so many levels. The wood framing underneath it was charred black. It was...
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was bad. So I obviously corrected all that, ran the wiring where it was supposed to go, put it in an electrical box. So what should have taken me 15 minutes took me 2-3 days to correct.
Yeah.
And that can happen sometimes in an older home. I guess I'm saying that to say changing out a vanity or vanity light is generally a pretty easy thing to do. Obviously, make sure you turn the power off. But,
safety first.
But sometimes you get into these DIY projects, you get into quote unquote DIY surprises, right?
Yeah.
Things that you totally didn't expect.
Right. So back in, let's say, 1960 something, that may have been not a DIY project. But
oh,
that was
no, this
the way
was
it was built.
This was a homeowner special, I think.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah,
so
I think this was we redid this at some point, and I didn't know how to do it, so I'm just going to put something I can plug it into.
Okay. Because that seems weird. Yeah, to put it in the wall behind sheetrock and texture and all that stand out,
Yeah, lighting's a big one. And the lighting is usually fairly easy to replace, surprisingly.
Like you said, as long as you make sure you
as long as you don't have a 1/4-inch hole or a 1/2-inch hole in your wall.
Oh yeah, or and make sure that you turn off the power so you're not
definitely turn off the power.
Get shocked. I mean, I know in my 20s I installed a ceiling fan without turning off.
Oh.
I'm sure I did.
Yeah, just hopefully no one flipped the switch.
Yeah. I mean, anyway, I won't call myself any names right now. And fans are a great DIY project.
Yeah, I think so too.
But it's difficult. It's not, to mount a fan and get it up on a ladder. You got to be careful, and it's some work for sure.
It is definitely work.
But I love it. I've got a nice big fan. It's probably maybe a little bit larger than, the blades for the size room I have it in, maybe a little bit, but I'm like, it's going to be fine. And I did it.
Nice. Well, that works. So I have one more DIY. If you have older plumbing fixtures and they are chrome or that shiny silver, right? And they sort of look really dated. And you're thinking to yourself, man, I got to go replace all these plumbing fixtures, and you don't want to get into that, right? And all that entails. Did you know that you can paint those now?
I guess I'm going to say no, I did not.
So they actually sell now a special paint that you can use to paint those, and it will make them look oil rubbed bronze or black, like a flat black or whatever the modern look is.
Yeah.
Without having to go out and actually replace all those fixtures. So if they're working fine, you don't have to spend thousands of dollars replacing those things. Right. You can just change the color, which is pretty cool.
No, that is cool. Yeah, that's something good to think about.
Yeah, for sure. So, Tony, ready to get some client questions?
Oh, yeah, let's do it.
So what are some signs that a previous DIY renovation may have been done improperly in the home I'm thinking about buying?
I'm going to say...
ceiling falling down, plumbing fixtures
damage?
Popping off.
Water damage? Yeah. Water damage.
When you flush the toilet and it gurgles, that's a good sign.
Yeah. The toilet moves. We were talking about that earlier today. Yeah. And so, that's a thing when people work on their toilet or pull it up or buy a new toilet and put it down and then don't do it right. And then the toilet's loosely attached to the ground. That's a a pretty clear sign that somebody didn't know what they were doing.
When you turn the handle on the bathtub and it comes off in your hand, that's a good sign.
Something's gone wrong here.
I would say, hire an inspector if you're buying a home.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Without a doubt. Have us come in there and take a look at it. We can generally tell you if we think something, maybe wasn't done in the best possible way, right? If somebody didn't plumb a sink properly, or things aren't draining the way you would expect them to drain, something like that. So I would say the best thing you could do is don't try and kind of figure it out yourself. Just hire an inspector, have us come in, take a look at it, especially if you're buying the home. I mean, you want to get in there and you want to know that everything works the way it's supposed to.
So yeah, you buy a home that's fairly old, that something's changed and somebody's done something in most cases. And so that's where, you want to check that, give it a test drive, make sure that things are secure. I mean, there's so many things you can find: loose lights, cabinet doors that aren't attached well, loose sinks, faucets.
Okay, question number 2, Tony. How difficult is it to add GFCI protection to my outlets in my kitchens and bathrooms?
Well, you can add the GFCI outlet itself.
Yeah, turn the power off.
Well, yeah, sure, before you start the work. But that's what you would want to do.
Yeah, I would say 2 things about that. One, it's not super expensive to hire an electrician to do that.
Yeah, sure.
Yes, it's more expensive than spending $30 on an outlet. It's a few $100s. It's well worth your time. We interviewed Isaac Gann on a previous show, and he's a plumber. And he brought up the fact that, hey, when you hire a professional to do this, not only are you getting a warranty, but you're getting the protection of their company. Something like this, it's not crazy expensive to hire a professional to do it. That's the route I would go personally, and I'm more of a DIY guy.
There's certain things you don't want to tackle, whether it's due to risk or for yourself or your home, and the expertise that one has. Plus, those come with the guarantees that you talk about. The insurance, they're gonna make sure their work is warranted, and they're gonna make sure it works right. Yeah, and when you say a couple of $100, you probably want to have. And that's probably not per plug. Like if you had, let's say 10 plugs, you pay for all the plugs.
Let's say it's $1,000. It's still cheaper than you doing something wrong or spending 2 days figuring this out.
But an electrician doesn't charge you $200 per plug to change.
No, they definitely don't. Okay. Yeah. So that said, if you are planning to do this yourself, just keep in mind. Ground fault outlets have to be wired in a specific way. Make sure you read the instructions. The good news with it is if you get it wrong, the circuit's still very likely protected. It just may be not protected in the way that you're expecting it to be. Right? And also it's hard to wire them properly when you're chaining GFCIs together. So normally you only need one per circuit. But again, an electrician's going to be able to give you the best advice on that. So I think what I would say is on this one, you probably want to hire an electrician.
Oh, yeah, definitely if you're chaining them together. I don't even want to try to tackle that.
Yeah. All right, we just moved in, and we have a spot on a second story with a walk-in attic. We would really like to convert it into a new bedroom and bathroom. Is this something we can do?
No.
Well, anything's possible, right? It comes down to time and money. Is it something you can do, as in, can I just go put a floor in and throw some drywall up and call it a day? No.
Not at all.
It is a pretty big undertaking. Yeah. For sure. The live and dead loads of the house are going to change.
Yeah.
You definitely want to get, at the minimum, an architect involved. Probably a structural engineer.
Yeah, structural engineer.
And then you also are going to want to look at check with a plumber and just make sure that you can even put plumbing in that area in a non-invasive way, right? Like it might be, you can put plumbing in here, but to do it, we're going to have to demolish the room below it and jackhammer your floor and whoever knows what else.
If you want a bathroom up there, off that room for sure.
So
sure.
Those are the 2 professionals I'd consult with first. And then you probably want to talk to an electrician just on the power side to make sure, your box can handle the additional amperage, right?
Yeah. And then there's the air conditioning for the room.
Right. Yeah.
That's pretty important.
You need to make sure you can get supplier in there.
And tried to, put an inlet or, into that room, and it just didn't work out. I haven't talked to him since. All I know is their significant other was telling me that he was installing a mini split for that room at that point in time. So
translation, my HVAC system didn't have enough to push
either that or it wasn't exchanging air well, and it can't just blow air into a room. I think it's got to go both ways for sure, and I don't think he thought about that. If you're at that point, you can do all that work and consult with those people. Hey man, that's great. But yeah, you really need to have a lot of information regarding all those issues you're talking about right there.
Yeah, I think so too. All right, last question. You guys recommended that I service and clean my air conditioner. Can I clean it myself, and what's the best way to do it?
Well, sure. I mean, the outside condenser unit, you can go ahead and hit that with a garden hose, right? Like,
don't pressure wash it.
No pressure wash it. Yeah,
just nice and easy, nice and gentle.
The leaves, all the little willow fluffs and different things that get sucked into there, and clean it out really well. It's a good idea. Now up in the attic, where your plenum is and everything. I guess you could, if you have enough room, you could get in there and maybe clean some area inside where the filter normally goes, right?
Yeah.
You could go in there and clean that, right?
Sure. So, you could clean the return.
Yeah.
I would say if we recommended a service, have an HVAC company come out and service it. There's a reason we recommended that you get it serviced, right? Mm-hmm. We saw something with the unit, or we heard something with the unit, or it was performing in a way that told us, you need to have this serviced, right? So if we told you that, probably want to get an HVAC company to come out and service it. They're going to put pressure gauges on it, and they're going to check all of the different components to make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to do.
Oh, absolutely. I thought we were talking talking about DIY. So
we are
there's the
for
things
sure.
that you could maybe do.
Yeah. As far as cleaning it, you can clean it yourself usually. All right, Tony. Well, any closing thoughts on this?
No, I think that, I think planning and safety are main things that you need to consider when you go into these projects like this, and just make sure you're not doing something that when you go to sell your home, somebody hires an inspector and tells the buyer that, man, this is all done wrong for one good reason.
Yeah.
But also it's just to get it done right. If you can do it, that is awesome. But if you can't, hire somebody else to do it. And if you can do it right and make things look nice and pretty and up to date, that's awesome. Just be careful, be safe.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's DIY projects can be a lot of fun, but if you feel like you're in over your head, it's always a good idea to hire a professional. If you need references for that, you can always reach out to our office.
Oh, yeah.
We're happy to provide some references for you. Those references are always, people we know in the industry who do good work, and we don't make anything off of them. They're just good people that we know that do good work.
We'd love to help out in any way we can. How can they reach us?
Well, they can reach us at Instagram or at Facebook or at housefluent.com, or they can call the office at 817-601-5257 if they need a home inspection or just generally have any questions that they want answered about their home.
Awesome.
So what do we have coming up on the next show?
Our next topic?
Yeah. What do we have coming up?
I haven't decided yet. We'll have to. What do you think would be a good topic? Maybe we should ask our listeners.
DIY snow bunnies.